fans just might turn into our fans. Be cool, it's just a part of this program. Spit your best 16 if you must. You not whack, you just sound whack rapping after us. For real.
Justin, what's cracking, my man?
Dude, so good to see you, Saul.
It's been a while.
It has been. It's been a couple weeks, but I'm glad to be back in the chair with you. And I am excited because we have some very important news to share regarding our podcast's future.
Yeah, man, we got to change this shit up because it's getting a little old, man. You and I just think we ain't pulling in the demographics in the way we want to. So we decided to upgrade our show a little bit. And by doing such, we're going to bring on
a lot of it.
The one and only Corey Williams is in the house. Corey, welcome to the show, buddy.
What's going on, fellas? Glad to be here.
Yeah,
you guys are doing just fine. You don't need an old guy like me.
Yeah, everybody needs a good old head in the group, man. And you got a few years on me, so I think this is always good.
Absolutely, just a little different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, just a little bit. But Corey's going to be joining us now every show. And he's going to continue doing his work for ESPN and college basketball. Hopefully that all goes smoothly for you this year with the pandemic and everything. Kind of, who knows? It's like a roller coaster. It goes up and it goes down. And now this Delta variant, who knows? It's like a game of roulette. We never know what you're going to get.
True. Absolutely.
But I'm excited for this new partnership just because – when I first got into journalism, Corey was actually one of my first mentors. And he was one of the first guys to reach out his hand and say, okay, come help us out at the Tucson Summer Pro League, the Summer Pro-Am that Corey's put on for, 15 years, Corey?
Yeah, since 2004, the pandemic was the year. So this coming back, it'll be about 16 or 17 seasons we've been doing.
Yeah. Crazy. And Corey reached out to me, or I reached out to him in 2014, and he was kind enough to allow me to kind of establish myself and get my feet wet in this industry. And he's always been a helping hand for me. So I'm just happy that, Corey still gets to be a part of the journey and join Total BS.
Yeah, so my interaction with Corey is a little bit different. I came to the U of A in like '94, and we were running this I forgot what it was called, Sporting Chance basketball tournament, and Corey had come by just to hand out some trophies and say hi to the kids and stuff like that. And at the time, he was a little skinnier at the time. He was a little thinner. Just coming off a Final Four appearance, and it was like, hey, this is a U of A star. You know what I mean? And like little did I know, 25 plus years later, we'd be working together doing a bunch of cool stuff. And I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Absolutely. I was holding my breath while you were telling that story. I'm like, man, I hope I didn't Hollywood Saul back in the day.
I was like, hey, Corey. He was like, stiff arm. Get the hell away from me, bro.
Get out of here. Those were the days, man. They used to just tell us weeks in advance the commitments that the program was already involved in, and we would just show up at places and hand out awards, Special Olympics, tournaments, programs, fundraisers. We just were told where to go. So a lot of times I meet people around town. They're like, you remember I met you at? And I was like, hey, I was on the company's time. I just went wherever they told us to go.
Fair enough.
I thought Saul was about to say, I reached out my hand to shake Corey's hand, and he shook my hand and gave me a couple dollars. Give me a little tip.
No, that would only be a Sean Era Miller Arizona Wildcat. So,
you can say that now. You can say that now.
Hey, everybody's in the now. It's just close the case. Statute of limitations is over.
Well, hey, anyways, Chicago's Corey's a Chicago guy. Obviously, a big MJ fan. I'm a big MJ fan. MJ did Space Jam back in the day. We kind of circled it back around now with LeBron's new Space Jam 2, which just got released this past week. And to come on and kind of rehash a little bit of that and other noise, we're going to bring on Jabari Davis from the Dunks and Discourse podcast. What's up, Jabari?
Hey, how you guys doing? I appreciate being on with the three Arizona Kings.
Hey, that's what it is, man. The Three Kings. I like that. We might have to change this show right now just because of that. There it is.
R.I.P. Total BS.
You guys kind of saw a glimpse of it, or at least watched it. I know Justin fell into that era of thinking that it was going to be a good movie and watched it and was disappointed. But what were your overall impressions of Space Jam 2?
To be honest with you, I went into it thinking this is going to be a kid's movie. It's going to be, you know, a lot of cameos, a lot of, you know, to be honest with you, I kind of expected the Coming to America sequel vibes, and that's kind of what I got. So I'm not here to, to trash it or say like, oh, I can't believe you liked it, but I recognized pretty early on it wasn't made for me.
The first one was utter trash. Let's just say it like that. Like if Michael Jordan wasn't in it, I would hate it so much. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't good. It just wasn't good. I don't know, Corey, you remember the first one?
I remember Space Jam, and I remember thinking, okay, the live animation crossover has been done before. I'm a huge fan of Roger Rabbit. I think that was the first time as a kid I went and saw a movie with live actors and cartoons. Roger Rabbit, to this day, I will stop and watch it if I see it on at 3 a.m, just total nostalgia. So I remember going to see Space Jam with Jordan, and I was a Jordan fan, and it was done as best that could be done at the time in terms of graphics. So for me, you know, the Monstars and Jordan, it was awesome. I liked it. I thought it was there was nothing else like it. You know, so it's aged well. It's a classic. You go back and look at it, and CGI has come so far now. But for me, Space Jam was really more about this is an athlete who's so famous that Warner Brothers has partnered with him. And now you've got Warner Brothers cartoons that I grew up watching in the 80s as a kid on Saturday morning, meshing with the guy that I'm watching right now in the NBA. So for me, it was cool. I liked Space Jam for what it represented. Was it the greatest script? No. But to see Jordan out there with Porky Pig, I mean, it was just mind-blowing that they meshed the two genres at the time.
Speaking of Porky Pig, my biggest takeaway from the movie is that, man, Porky Pig, he's got some rhymes. There's a scene in the movie where they actually did a battle rap. They just stopped in the middle of the game, started battle rapping each other, and it was Porky Pig on the mic. But, I mean, you bring up the Warner Brother characters, and that was actually one of my favorite parts about the movie was that they incorporated so much of Warner Brothers into the movie. Like, it wasn't just about the Looney Tunes and Toon World. Like, they brought in Batman and Robin and Superman and all these superheroes. And you also had King Kong sitting courtside at the game. Like, they had all these Warner Brother characters just a part of the movie. And for people who haven't seen the movie, Michael Jordan is, in fact, in the movie. Now, which one? I'll leave that up to you guys.
Oh, Jesus. You already ruined it right there by saying that, because it damn sure ain't going to be the airness. I know that.
Hey,
but I enjoyed it.
Can I ask this just really quickly? I wonder for all of us, all of us are a little bit older than Justin. So for us, I'm wondering if some of the nostalgia that we feel for the first one is also tied heavily to the soundtrack, because it's actually one of the greatest movie soundtracks that at least from that era.
Well, I think I heard on the radio somebody say they changed the words to "I Believe I Can Fly" because of Mr. R. Kelly and his legal troubles to "I Believe I Can Cry" because it's LeBron.
Oh my gosh!
Which I thought was pretty funny. I started laughing. So.
I'm going to go a little different here. When a singer covers a song, the people from that original era don't like the cover. It never works. So LeBron James is about to be worth $1 billion this year. He's built a massive, massive label in terms of marketing, his presence, his branding. So to team up with Warner Brothers, that says a lot about LeBron James. That they're bringing King Kong, Batman, and all their characters, and he's coming to the table with just me, LeBron James. So clearly, he's got a great brand. But to do the Space Jam cover, I felt, LeBron, you don't need to cover MJ. Do your own movie. Just do something completely new. I mean, Shaq did Shazam or whatever, Kazam, for Christ's sake. That was horrible. But he could have done his own movie. I really felt like you started your career wearing the 23. Okay, fine. Now you want to copy Space Jam. You don't want GOAT comparisons, yet you do the GOAT footsteps. That don't make sense to me. So, of course, your movie's going to be held up against the original, and it's going to be judged by people who were old enough to remember the original, who are probably already in the MJ boat to begin with. Yep. So it's like, why are you copying my man's hit? Like, leave it alone. You don't cover Luther. You don't cover Whitney Houston. You don't cover Anita Baker. And you damn sure don't do Michael Jordan's movie. And that's an old head perspective. The young kids have no point of reference because they've never seen Space Jam in the first place.
So when you say don't cover Luther, are you talking about One Shining Moment particularly?
Now I'm talking about anything Luther. any black R&B artist knows, man, I'm not covering no Luther. Nah, I'm not covering no Stevie Wonder. You just setting yourself up for criticism and failure when you try to cover a great. But we're in the era of making money. And if Space Jam is going to do great at the box office, I mean, let's be honest. With no pandemic, they rake in untold. I'm sure the movie will still do good, but with no pandemic, people in the theaters, it would have done well. I know they pushed it back because of that. But, yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. But for people my age, we don't want to see a cover of a great. That's just my opinion.
Again, it's a kids movie, and hey, if you got a family of 4 or 5 or whatever, and you want to take the kids to the theater, this is a good movie to kind of keep dad at bay a little bit, even though it might be a little corny for you, but the kids will enjoy it. It's good for the kids. It's a good movie for the kids. It just is. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I watched the last 15 minutes of it. I was like, I could see if I was like 7, 8 years old, I would dig this. This is pretty cool. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
me not being that age, it hits a little different, right, Jabari?
Yeah, that's basically the case. Like I said, it wasn't for me, and so I'm not going to judge it harshly.
Yeah. Well,
but every kids movie though. I was gonna say every kids movie though, like you say, keeping the parents at bay. Every awesome kids movie always has those little subtle references that adults always catch. And I think that's honestly why Shrek is such a great kids movie, because if you really pay attention to Shrek, there's a lot of references that only maybe adults would get. And if you go back and you watch Space Jam 2, if you're a really diehard basketball fan, there's a lot of things where you're like, oh, I remember seeing that. Like Don Cheadle in the movie dunks late in the game, and then he looks over at the camera and does the Vince Carter, it's over. It's over. Mm-hmm. And there's so many of those things where, like, if you're a basketball fan, even as an adult, you can appreciate Space Jam 2. Now, how many times will I see it again in the future? Probably maybe once or twice. Probably not at all, because it was that bad. But still, I was entertained. It was great.
Well, I mean, speaking of help, Jabari kind of mentioned in our chat that LeBron needs all the help he can get.
That's what I said. That's how I phrased that.
That's what I think. That's what I read. Let me just say it like that. That's what I read. So they had to pump the movie full of stars, just like in real life. He needs all the help he can get to try and get an NBA championship. And speaking of which, Damian Lillard has been rumored to be a target of the Lakers, despite their lack of draft capital or assets that anybody else would want.
How?
You know what I mean? Like,
how?
It's just not going to happen. But Damian Lillard, there was a rumor that he wants out of Portland. He denied the rumor. Thoughts on that, starting with Justin?
He is lying. He is lying through his teeth. Damian Lillard is lying so hard right now, and I'll tell you why. Because he came out in his press conference with Team USA, said the rumors are not true. Now, with that being said, my future is not confirmed yet in Portland. So if the rumors and the reports are not true, why do you got to add that little part to where it's like, okay, maybe Portland is not the answer for me, but whatever you're hearing right now isn't exactly true. And then on top of that, Neil Olshey, the general manager, and Chauncey Billups, the new head coach, they flew down to Las Vegas last night to meet with Damian Lillard. Now, why on earth do you need to fly down to Las Vegas to attend the Team USA practices in order to talk to Damian Lillard if his future in Portland is solidified? I'm calling total BS. Little name drop there for the podcast. And I think Damian Lillard is going to be on his way out from Portland.
Corey, as a former professional basketball player, do you buy the hype of Damian trying to get out of Portland, or do you think he's telling the truth and he wants to stay?
Well, it's a dance, and it's always a dance. I need my team to be improved, and I need to apply pressure to the front office. So you and your agent text, call, sit down, have a cup of coffee. How do you get things in motion? The story that's not a story, like Justin points out, is the first step. Can I put some pressure on the front office to tap dance and maybe get some things in motion that make it worth my while to stay? The second part is We also are now in the era of guys just forcing their way out of situations. You saw it with Harden in Houston. The problem is you have to have enough political capital and be likable enough to force your way out and not get the negative blowback. Dame and his agent are testing the waters. What's going to be the public reaction if Dame decides to be the most hated person in Portland and go from their savior to a guy who wants to turn his back on them? Can he survive that politically? So that's the whole, his sound bites are very non-committal. Oh, my situation is secure, blah, blah, blah. But as Justin pointed out, he's been able to make the front office tap dance and fly down to Vegas to check on him. So it's the first stage of a very long dance. I'm not happy with the way things are currently constructed. What are you going to do? Now, he's put management on the clock. The whole country, the whole basketball world's watching management. And if management doesn't make moves, then Dame Lillard can demand his way out and not have any public blowback, because he'll be like, you see what they all did? I made a suggestion. Nothing happened. Who can blame me? And that's the idea. That's what he wants to be. And he wants to be in a situation where he can ask out and not get a negative public blowback.
Jabari, it's kind of ironic that he's going through this little motion, and the rumors of potentially going to a team like the Heat or the Lakers is kind of out there, right? Especially considering he tried to drag Paul George last year in the playoffs for that same very thing.
Yeah, but I mean, would he be the first person that ever clowned somebody and then ended up doing the same exact thing? Let's keep it real. Like, this is the thing. I agree 100% with Corey. I agree with with your points as well, Justin. We've seen this dance before. Matter of fact, let's put it in terms of what we were just talking about. We've seen this movie. We know how it ends. Now, obviously there's a slight difference between what he's doing right now with, if I'm not mistaken, like either 3 or 4 years left on that deal, and compared to what guys like Harden or AD did, where they were either in the last year or the second to last year, same path. But because of that, and this is where Corey's point was so important. Because of that, he can't take that full hit and just come out with his chest and say like, yeah, I want to get out of here. But he has been laying the foundation for a while. Like the little comments didn't just recently start. They kind of started even before the playoffs. Even before the playoffs were over. He was kind of putting it out there. So to be honest with you, while I understand from his perspective why he has to kind of protect himself, I'm at that place where I'm just like, you know what? I recognize this is selfishly thinking. Just say you want to get out of there so we can go ahead and fast forward this movie. We know. Let's get to the good part, basically.
Yeah.
Let's get to the good part. I mean, that's a good point. I think every NBA player wants to be appreciated, but more importantly, as you start to get older, right? I think in your younger years, and Damian, and maybe years 22 to 26, he was in a certain spot where he was like, I'm making a name for myself. I want to get that big contract. I love it here in Portland. And then you get to the point where that window, you can see the window starting to approach where it's like, man, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this for X amount of years. I need some help now so I can try and get a championship, so I can maybe explode my brand a little bit more just because of, where I'm at. And you can kind of see that window starting to close a little bit. So I think that's why Damian's like, listen, I appreciate what I've done in Portland, but I need more help. And these bums ain't going to help me. That ain't it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the charming parts about Damian Lillard's career is that, he wasn't really highly recruited coming out of high school. Then he goes to Weber State in Utah. And then he's a high draft pick, but not a lot of people know about this guy. And then when he comes into the league, he's in the Western Conference, which is a guard-heavy conference, and still trying to establish himself as one of the top players in the league. And then he never quite got to that point because he had Steph Curry, he had Russell Westbrook, James Harden, all these guards. Now he's really started to make a name for himself as one of the top guards in the league. And he's been with Portland. He's like, hey, I'm going to ride with you guys, but you need to help me as much as possible. CJ McCollum is not a good number 2 guy.
What do you mean now?
What?
I'm going to challenge you on that. What do you mean now? Like how good has Damian Lillard been in your eyes for how long has he been great in your eyes? Because when you bring up Harden, I would say Damian Lillard has been just as good as Harden in the last 4 years.
Ooh, I don't think Damian Lillard had a scoring streak quite like James Harden How many 30-point games did James Harden have in a row?
How many 60-point games has Damian Lillard had in the playoffs?
And James Harden has had a lot more winning than Damian Lillard since being in the NBA. James Harden has played in the Western Conference Finals, where Damian Lillard, he seems he can't get past the second round.
Yeah, but James Harden got to the Western Conference Finals with Chris Paul, another good guard to help him. And,
for sure, because he had the help. He had the secondary help. Where Damian Lillard, and I like C.J. McCollum a lot, but I just don't think that C.J. McCollum is a number 2 option in the NBA. And now Damian Lillard has kind of got to a point where the Portland Trailblazers have kind of plateaued, and they've only gotten to the second round. And then Damian Lillard's looking at management in front office like, okay, help me out. Put pieces around me besides Yusuf Nurkic and C.J. McCollum. Yusuf Nurkic can't stay healthy to save his life. C.J. McCollum, I mean, I like him on the team, but I just don't think he's a number 2 option. And Damian Lillard's like, okay, what can you do to help me out? And I think now with that meeting in Las Vegas with Chauncey Billups and the general manager, it's him saying, okay, this is your opportunity. We are now in the summer. We have all this time before the start of the season. You need to get active. You need to put this as a I'm going to request a trade and go to a place that could possibly win a championship. And, we talk about the Lakers possibly being a team to trade for him. If there's any team that's probably got the assets, it's the Philadelphia 76ers if they want to move away from Ben Simmons.
Oh, Jesus.
Justin makes an interesting point. The league is a what have you done for me lately type situation, and his 2021 narrative is way better than Harden's. I don't think he has the career and the scoring that Harden has had over the past 10 seasons or whatever, but you certainly know that this year it was Dame time. It was ridiculous buzzer beaters. His name is hot, and you strike while the iron is hot. So while Harden may have a better career, I think Lillard has been just as competitive, just as impressive. But this year particularly, the deck was cleared. All anybody's going to remember about Harden this year is you forced your way out and then you got hurt. But Damian Lillard's narrative was emphatic. I mean, he had people doing commercials. He has little kids pointing at their wrists during their AAU games. It's Dame time. He's hot right now, and he has the leverage. Now, this is the question I'd ask, any of you would want to answer. The way Lillard is pursuing wanting out, he doesn't have the cachet or the resume of, let's say, Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. We all know Aaron Rodgers wants out. He is Green Bay football. So for him, he doesn't have to say anything or tweet anything. I think he enjoys the sympathy of the fan base. And I don't know if that's the same situation with Damian Lillard. 2 different approaches to the same situation.
I think that the situation is a little different because Aaron Rodgers is now in the offseason. He gets to go to Hawaii and hang out with Miles Teller and his girlfriend and just kind of get away from everyone. Where Damian Lillard is the starting point guard of Team USA right now in the Olympics. So he's really in the center of attention of it all. And he kind of has to face it when he goes and talks to the media.
I don't know. I think Damian Lillard is just as beloved in Portland as say an Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay, mostly because both of those cities are one team cities. They don't have anything else going on. So you love your star player if you're Portland, right, Jabari?
Yes, but here's the thing. Here's the catch to that, and believe me. Tell me if you disagree. I think that's going to work against him in this case, especially once it's really just obvious that that he not only wants out, but the things are in motion. Those same folks that have been absolutely in love with him and have been praising him to high heaven, deservedly so, are going to go nuts, and they are absolutely going to turn. Now, obviously, there's going to be. I don't want to posit it as like the mature, but there's going to be a certain level of maturity that people are going to say like, hey, look, he gave us 7 or 8 years of an incredible what is going to ultimately be a Hall of Fame career. So we can't really ask anything more of him. But there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to absolutely trash him. And honestly, if this starts to become more of a public conversation, and say Portland doesn't get off to a good start, it's going to start this season.
Well, quick though, I'm asked Jabari. I always loved and will ever always remember the cupcake T-shirts that Oklahoma City fans had when KD came back.
Yep.
Will there be a lame time T-shirt in Portland?
It'll be something like that. It'll
cupcake
absolutely.
T-shirt was epic, and that got under Durant's skin. They wore those to the game, and I thought that was hilarious.
So not only will there be something like that, you may have just put it out there in the universe. Someone's going to see
trademark.
Flame time with a broken clock.
Exactly, with a broken clock. Someone's absolutely going to see this. But here's the difference. And look, I don't get on shows and try to play doctor because look, I do not have the letters behind my name. But something tells me that it's not going to bother Dame as much as it bothers KD.
Oh yeah, no.
I think the worst one I've ever seen is LeBron. When he went back to Cleveland for the first time.
Yeah,
with
that
Miami.
was rough.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like deeply rooted vitriol there. Like
that to me is more in line with Aaron Rodgers. LeBron's love in Cleveland, bringing them a title, being from there. That's more similar to Aaron Rodgers than Dame in Portland. But I think all three are beloved by those cities. And yeah, people with broken feelings and broken hearts, they're going to do a lot of crazy stuff.
We won't get into the specifics of a game-to-game thing since this is Saturday and the NBA Finals Game 5 is tonight, but we will talk about the series as a whole. Bucks, Suns, obviously two teams that are in the NBA Finals looking for their first championship for the Bucks in 53 years, for the Suns ever. What has been your impression overall, and who do you expect to come out on top at the end of the day? This is very interesting because I have three other guys on here that are not Suns stands. I am a Suns fan, beloved, and so I will keep my opinions out of this. If you want to see them, you can go to Sun Solar Panel. There you go. But Corey, let's start with you. What has been your overall impression, and what do you think is going to be the end result?
Because I'm pulling for the Suns, I see everything that I watch as a missed opportunity for the Suns. I see it as bad Suns. I saw them in game 3 cut it to 4 and then let Milwaukee go on a run and close it out. I saw the last game them play very poorly and still be in the game with the exception of Booker and have a chance to win, and they let it escape. I've seen them blow the Bucks out at home, and the difference in the whole thing for me is the Suns are capable of blowouts. The Bucks can't blow out anybody. They just can't. That's not their DNA. That's not who they are. They're a grind out, win if you let us stay around type team. I don't think the Bucks have a snowball's chance in Phoenix, whether it's game 5 or game 7. But the only thing that's giving me pause is the play of Chris Paul now that Drew Holiday's picking him up full court. He has not been the same. Does he have the ability to dig deep and fend off these young, fresh legs that are harassing the hell out of him and making him look old? Or was it a one-off? So all I'm watching tonight is, can Chris cook Drew, get some fouls on him, back him off, and let him know, like, yo, I'm an OG, little man, fall back. Like that little stuff you pulled in Milwaukee, that was your night. But I'm not turning the rock over. I'm not going to stumble with the ball. I'm going to cook you. And y'all gonna have to find another situation, because that's the only reason the Suns didn't sweep the Bucks was the play of Drew Holiday defensively on Chris Paul.
Jabari?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I went, obviously, I'm not a Suns guy, but I went into the series absolutely expecting the Suns to win. Now, of course, part of that was related to not really knowing the status of Giannis and not knowing whether he was going to be 100% or what they were going to get from him in the series. But even with him playing incredible basketball, it still feels like a series that the Suns should probably at least be up 3-1. I agree 100% with you, Corey. That battle is going to make the difference. We can simplify it down to like basketball truly being a make or miss situation, and sometimes you have to win your matchup. If the Suns can't win that matchup and they are and Chris Paul, if I'm not mistaken, he's got 15 turnovers in his last 3 games. If that continues and Drew beats him up at the point of attack, I'll be honest with you, even though I felt great about the Suns, especially after game 2, this is a series that I could absolutely see the Bucks come back and steal.
Yeah. And I think, that's why Drew Holiday is so important to that team, because even though he hasn't really shot the ball great in this series, I mean, the defense on Chris Paul has been so huge for the Bucks. And I think my biggest takeaway from this series is, how the hell did John Calipari have Devin Booker coming off the bench at Kentucky for the damn Harrison twins? It's just so mind-blowing to me. But, I mean, Devin Booker, that 40-point game the other night was awesome. But Devin Booker in the playoffs, there were a handful of games where he didn't shoot the ball particularly well, and the Phoenix Suns were still able to find a way to win. So the complete X factor here is Chris Paul. How can he play in the next 3 games? Because he's everything for Phoenix right now. You can't turn over the ball, and you have to be efficient on offense. And, we're talking about how, is this upcoming game on Saturday a legacy game for Chris Paul? Like, is this all or nothing? I mean, this is a legacy series for Chris Paul. And I say that because, honestly, I just don't see another time where the Phoenix Suns are going to get back into the NBA Finals.
I mean, did you see this one coming?
No, not at all.
Okay, then you can't say that stuff, man.
But Saul, man. How did they get here then? How did they get here, Saul?
Don't give me that shit. I don't want to hear that.
Am I wrong or am I wrong?
You're wrong. Yeah, I mean, you talk about a franchise that has been absolutely bamboozled by the NBA in the last 2 decades, going all the way back to Steve Nash breaking his nose in the first freaking game against the Spurs, or David Stern suspending Boris Diaw and Amari Stoudemire for standing 1 foot on the court for Game 6 back in Phoenix with a chance to go to the NBA Finals. Like, I don't want to hear that trash. I just don't. I don't care, because guess what? They're up 2. It's tied 2-2 right now against a team that doesn't have a player with an injury.
Absolutely,
they're all playing at full strength, except for maybe Dante DiVincenzo. But then you got Dario Saric, and Chris Paul's been battling injuries this entire playoffs. Your Lakers should have taken advantage of Game 1 against the Suns when Chris Paul went down, but they didn't. They could have been up 3-0. But they didn't, and they could have given Anthony Davis a little bit more time to recover and possibly come back for whatever potential Game 7. We can do ifs and buts or candy and nuts all damn day, but I'm not trying to hear that shit.
Well, let me jump in here and provide a little.
Okay, I got something. Go ahead.
One of the most difficult things that shaped my career, I was at NBA pre-draft camp, breakaway dunk. Guy had no chance of blocking it. He runs from behind. I dunk it. I land on his foot and roll my ankle the second day of camp. I was playing unbelievably well, had worked myself into probably getting drafted, and that injury changed the trajectory of my life. I would have been in Chicago pre-draft with a very slim chance of getting drafted in the second round and not possibly being in the NBA. So what I learned about injuries is that the injury gods don't play favorites. They just deal out injuries and they happen. Chris Paul had the injury against the Golden State Warriors when he was at Houston. And did Golden State benefit? Absolutely. Now, the deck has been cleared, so to speak, for the Suns. You had the Anthony Davis injury. You had the injury in Denver. But that's no one's fault. You can't point to that because it happens all the time. Harden went down. Kyrie went down.
But Corey, I've never seen anything like this before, because like we talked about the 2019 Raptors winning the championship. That was just one series. I've never seen like this string of injuries happening for one team.
That one series had 2 major injuries to 2 star players to basically hand them the championship. If you want to go down that road, right?
For sure. But the Lakers without Anthony Davis, the Nuggets without Jamal Murray.
Is it the Suns' fault that Anthony Davis missed half the season, came back, probably wasn't in good enough shape to stay healthy? Is it their fault, or is it the Suns' fault that the Anthony Davis stays with an injured groin all the damn time? No. Is it the Suns' fault that Jamal Murray got hurt against the Golden State Warriors 10 games before the season ended? No. None of it.
But it certainly benefited them.
Can I stand in the middle of the aisle and maybe bring folks together on this?
Oh, yeah,
the truth,
please.
Look. Here's the reality. This has been an unprecedented run in terms of like injuries lining up, but ultimately none of that matters. Whoever. No, I agree with you. We haven't seen it quite like this, but ultimately it's like, okay, yeah. If it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. It does not matter. Whoever wins this title. While yes, there's going to be a percentage of folks that will always point to it. A lot of us are going to say like, "Yo, that team won the title in 2021. It was crazy, but they won that title."
Clippers fans.
I met Byron Russell in the airport, and I walked up to him. I said, "Why you let Jordan push you like that?" I asked him, and he just was, man. Things happen when it's not your turn. The basketball gods just be like, that's what happens. So the injuries, it's all part of the game. You know the job was dangerous when you took it. You can't point to other people's injuries and be like, that's the reason Kawhi won because KD tore up his Achilles. That's not on Kawhi and the Raptors. It's not. You take care of your crew and whatever happens, happens. And Chris Paul's been through so many injuries. I feel like the basketball gods been owing him a season like this. They've been owing him this. So to see karma come full circle, all these celebrities get hurt. Saul hit the nail on the head. Anthony Davis be more hurt than the Mary J. Blige song. It's ridiculous. It's not anybody else's fault.
But this is okay. A big part of the reasons why, big reason why a lot of these players are getting hurt is because of the shifted schedule.
Everybody was in the same boat.
No,
everybody's in the same boat.
Justin, see, that's a narrative.
How short was the offseason for the Lakers? Wasn't it like less than 2 months?
Yeah, not everybody was in the same boat.
Not everybody was in the same boat. The Sun season ended 2 months before the Lakers did.
The fucking season off. What are you talking about? LeBron and AD missed half the season to recover and rehab. They should have been the freshest team out there.
Facts.
I don't know about that, Chief.
Get out of here, Justin. Also, wait, real quick before you get to that, Corey. Also, Clippers fans, they've been in the mentions of Suns Twitter trying to throw their chest out there. What happened last year in the bubble when you had a 3-1 lead? What happened there? You had everybody available. Everybody was healthy then, and you still choked. Shut up and go live in L.A. and enjoy it and be the second-class citizen to the Lakers because y'all are some bums.
Why does LA take the shot?
I said second-class citizens. I said second-class citizens to the Lakers.
Okay,
I said that.
I've never played. I played the ball a long time. I've never played with a guy who used an injury as an excuse. That's just above the coach. That's for the media and the analysts to throw that trash in there. I don't want to hear about fatigue from anybody under 30 playing in America with the best medical staff, personal chefs, trainers, weightlifting facilities. I played an entire season on a stress fracture for $70,000 in Belgium, right? That's a hooper. Real hoopers know people get hurt. You understand what I'm saying? Ooh, what was the movie Paid in Full? Cats get hurt every day,
every day, B.
Cats get hurt every day, B. It's just what it is. So if you want to try to reach out and look at the injury report to legitimize a win or a loss, you could do that every year. Now, the only thing I'm saying, and I'm going to end mine, is I'm from an era where dudes did everything to pretend to make you believe that they weren't hurt. They didn't want you to know I'm banged up. Bird, Jordan, Isaiah, Magic, they did Kobe. They didn't want the opposition to know that I'm aching, because if you think I'm weak, you're going to come for me. I hide my injuries. This generation want everybody to believe they hurt on every play, on every foul. They selling, oh, he hit me in the face. I'm going to roll around. It's turning into FIFA, basically. It's international soccer now. And we can get into that another time. But I get the injuries, and it is awkward timing, but those chips fall where they fall. And everybody who signs up to hoop knows you could tear your – Boogie Cousins tore his stuff up in a pickup game. That had nothing to do with the bubble. Klay Thompson re-injured his stuff hooping on the side for fun in a pickup game.
Yeah.
The injury gods don't pay attention to whether you're playing in a game or you're working out. If they're going to hit you, they're going to hit you. And I'm getting that T-shirt. Cats get hurt every day, B. That's going to be my T-shirt.
And lame time.
Don't come to me crying because you missed your window. It happens to everybody. All the greats have been injured at some point.
Saul, can I just throw this in? Because what's funny is we all just kind of went off on Justin to what his original point, I think, was you just never know because of the injury gods, because of the basketball gods. If I'm a Suns fan, while yes, I do believe the window is larger, you don't know that. So if you want to capitalize on this, regardless of how the path was laid, you want to capitalize on this opportunity.
For sure. But my point is like nobody expected the Suns to be there, and then my man tried to throw some shade and be like, yeah, but they're only here for.
But you didn't let me finish, and then you just yelled at me, you chastised me man, for the last 15 minutes.
Because you even winked at me and were like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, no, I don't know what you're saying. Get the hell out of here, man.
I'm gonna tell you guys like this. I try to do this as an analyst, man. Sometimes love gets in the way. Justin loves his Lakers. Saul loves his Suns. Love gets in the way.
I've seen the breaks go so many times for so many other teams. When we finally get some, people want to try and bag on it. I'm not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to hear it.
Well, so I'll just have an objective point of view here for a second with the Lakers. Honestly, it was kind of karma. Because after Game 3, you saw Andre Drummond on the sideline, mimicking LeBron, posting up Jay Crowder. They were having fun. They were acting like front runners. And then injuries happened and karma happened. And then the Phoenix Suns ended up going and advancing. And now they're in the NBA Finals. But back to my original point, with now going into next season, everything is going to be set, is completely even. Nothing is shifted because of this bubble in Orlando. And with guys getting healthier now, with the Clippers, with the Nuggets, with the Jazz coming back, I mean, it's the West is going to be stacked once again. Teams are getting better. They're getting older, more mature, getting better players. So I look at the Phoenix Suns now. Now's got to be the time to win the championship because you simply don't know when you're going to get back to it.
Sure.
Jabari, there's one more narrative I think that can maybe bring Saul and Justin together.
No,
it's this Devin Booker-Kobe relationship. Devin Booker idolizes Kobe, wants to be like him, wants to get to that level. What I'm enjoying watching is I'm watching Devin Booker pay for it. Pat Bev broke his nose. He's getting beat up. He drops 40, but it's not enough. He's fouling out of games. You can't just like Kobe and want to be like Kobe. You're going to have to go through this and pay for it and just take it. Let's be real. The Mamba, someone breaks his nose, he's closing them out.
Oh, yeah.
He's winning game 5. He's winning game 6 in your arena. So now Devin Booker is really starting to understand how tough you have to be to get that Larry O'Brien trophy. No one's going to be like, oh, you're 24, you got great legs, good shot. Here's the trophy. No, fam. You got to silence a Pat Bev. You got to destroy a PJ Tucker. You got to make it so they don't even try to touch you. So he's realizing how expensive, and I say expensive in terms of sweat and determination, how expensive that trophy is. You can't just shout out Kobe and hashtag him and think that you're going to be in his vein. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about that, because we all know what Kobe would be doing in this situation.
Jabari had a face right off the bat when you mentioned Booker and Kobe. Go ahead, Jabari.
Well, no, because you know how I feel about it. That comparison has always annoyed me. But here's the thing: it's for it's for the reason that I give for all of those comparisons. I never feel like it's fair to the young player to really expect them to be a Kobe Bryant, or like if it's LeBron James or whomever the case may be. But Corey, you make an excellent point, and here's the reality: heavy is the head that wears that crown. If you want, look, you can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. If you want to put yourself in that conversation, and you know what? To be fair to Devin Booker, I'm not saying that he necessarily ever said, "Hey, I'm Kobe. I'm Kobe." No. Like Suns fans will say, some Suns fans at the very least on my timeline. But if you want to put yourself, like you said, if you want to put yourself in that conversation, you have to step up and be ready to go. Now, last game was fantastic. Last game was absolutely fantastic. That ain't on him. But we got to see it in these next couple games. We got to see that same level of productivity. Otherwise, again, not to Devin Booker, to Suns fans that are saying that, stop. Pump the brakes a little bit.
Oh, I feel you.
That's all I'm saying.
Hey, no, trust me. As a Suns fan, right? A realistic Suns fan. A realistic Suns fan. I don't like the comparison between Kobe and Booker. But what I will say is this: there are some tendencies and there are some similarities in their game from time to time that you get glimpses of that you're like, that's where I see Kobe. Just these little small, even the fadeaway shot that Devin Booker's been incorporating more and more and more. Just like when Kobe took that from Michael. All the great players take the great things that other great players have added to their game, and they try to keep it for themselves as well. And it's kind of a passed down generation thing. And that's what I like about what Booker's doing. Now, again, before the playoffs even started, I've been on this train about I needed to see Devin Booker do it in the playoffs. You can drop 50, you can drop 70 in the Garden. That's cool, but it ain't that cool if you can't get to the playoffs. He's in the playoffs. He showed out to this point. He's had a really good playoff. I need to see him close out these Bucks to really cement the fact that he's one of the best players in the NBA. He's a top 20 player in my estimation right now in the NBA, maybe even top 15. He wins this championship and he puts this team on his back to get there. He's top 10.
Well,
easily.
I think you're right, Saul, because for me, if you're Chris Paul, you got a young buck with fresh legs that can get 40. The question is, does he give you his 8-0 burst in the third, or does he give you his 8-0 burst over the final 3 minutes? Just take that work you're putting in and do it at the end. Chris Paul just got to kind of captain the ship. Chris Paul can close, but man, Devin Booker should be your closer. He should be closing for you. And Devin Booker, no one's going to stop him. He's young, he's quick, he's fast, he's a problem. And I think when he walked through that tunnel after dropping 40, he realized, I got to stay out of foul trouble. Because if I put this work in at the right time, they don't stand a chance.
Yeah, if he doesn't foul out, they win game 4, in my opinion, because I definitely think he would have dropped 50 because he was already at 38 when he picked up this 5th foul. And he should have fouled out a long time before the end of the game.
He had like 8 fouls.
We won't even get into that. But
and the biggest crime, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Crowder go 6 of 7 from 3 and they still lost?
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
He gave you a goose egg the night before and he hits 6 threes. If he hits 3 or 4 threes at home, Suns win in a blowout.
Yeah.
But he gives you 6 threes on the road and you don't cash in. That was huge.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, if the Suns end up losing this series, that game 4 is going to be the game where we look back and say, what could have been? What could have been? Because the Phoenix Suns could very well have a 3-1 series lead right now, close shit out in the Valley, and then they're crowned champs. But now, Corey, you bring up the point that the Milwaukee Bucks are the kind of like this grinded out team in games. They're kind of like this in the series. The longer it goes, the more likely I feel comfortable with the Milwaukee Bucks winning the championship.
How many 40-point losses or coming up short before Giannis wants out of Milwaukee? Because he got no help. I mean, Middleton is Jekyll and Hyde. He'll drop 40 at home. I'll be curious to see what he does tonight. Drew Holiday is iffy.
Those home and road splits are not pretty for the Bucks.
Dog, I've been to Milwaukee. Don't nobody love Milwaukee, man.
Damn. That's my place of birth.
Oh no!
Hey, and I was out of there. I'm glad my folks went to Cali when I was 3 months old. 3 months old, my family was like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing the winters here. We're not doing that."
Jabari's life is like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's NBA career.
Basically.
Start off Milwaukee, finish in LA.
Before we wrap things up, a couple things. First of all, just thoughts on the overall life and legacy of Biz Markie. He passed away last night, 57 years old. RIP. Kind of sad. Well, it is sad. It's not kind of sad. It is sad. One of the legends in hip hop for various reasons. Justin, you want to go ahead and start it off?
Yeah, I was very saddened to hear the news, especially, just at 57 years old. I mean, still had a lot of life left, even though, he's been a staple or a figure in hip hop for so long. But the thing I love about Biz Markie and his music is the one particular song, Just a Friend. It doesn't matter where you come from, your religion, your walk of life. It doesn't matter where you come from. You turn on Just a Friend in a bar, everyone is singing. And I mean truly everyone. And that's just such a cool thing to have as a part of your career. And I think about Biz Markie also getting into his acting career a little bit. The Men in Black 2 scene. I actually showed our producers this yesterday. One of my favorite scenes in the whole Men in Black trilogy is when Will Smith tries to get Tommy Lee Jones to come back to the force, and it tells them about aliens. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, aliens isn't real. And then he's like, oh, really? And he turns and goes, boo! and then looks at Biz Markie. Biz Markie turns and looks at him, and then Will Smith goes, boom, ticka, ticka, boom, ticka, ticka. And then Biz Markie responds with like this beatboxing alien type noise that only Biz Markie could do. And so I send my deepest condolences, thoughts, and prayers to everyone affected by this because it is a huge loss.
Corey?
Man, I'm gonna be real with you, Saul. It's just weird when people connected with your childhood and your youth past, because it puts into perspective, first of all, where you are, not to be selfish, but that music was such a part of my youth. We witnessed hip hop, and I say we, people over 40, we witnessed hip hop in its infancy, when literally there was no engineers and cats was on the corner making noises with their mouths. And if your boy had bars, y'all was doing little rap battles in parking lots and high school football games. So beatboxing was like the foundation of hip hop in New York. So he was an icon. And you know where rap is now with Percocet, Miley Percocet, I don't know. I can't really get into that. So it's like,
yo,
mask off.
Hey, first of all, before we fast forward on to what Corey wants to say, listen, I do not subscribe to the fact that people think that hip hop in the 80s was somehow better than hip hop now. I just don't subscribe to that.
Hey, I'm too cool for school.
Yeah, I went to the hat
and
shop. I bought myself a hat. Like what? No. Go ahead, Corey. Go ahead.
You know,
thank you.
I think
the Wild Wild West. Everybody, I heard somebody the other day say Kool Moe Dee was one of the best rappers of all time.
I used to go downtown.
Yeah, on 29th Street. No.
Damn.
You know, I'm trying not to be the old guy on. We could have a whole show on that, but I'll just say this: hip hop is the child that grows up, and that child may start to do things you don't like. It may veer away from the way it was raised. And as someone in my late 40s, I got to look at hip hop that way. I knew how it started. I knew it's changed. It's become a different voice. It has a different function. So when hip hop first came out, and it wasn't on MTV because it was considered black music, MTV wouldn't do rap videos. Then when Yo MTV Raps came out, hip hop was the voice of black culture, making it into mainstream media. So of course it was more weighted and more important. And to us, seemed like it was better because Public Enemy was rapping about stuff that's still current in 2021. Yeah,
absolutely.
When I hear young people in there talking about how many people they're going to shoot and how many drugs they're going to take, I'm like, this hip hop is trash. Our hip hop may not have sounded as good because you've had advances in music production, but at least we had content. That's where I say old school hip hop will never be touched by this trash that kids are talking about now. There's no content. So,
but you got to find that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Corey.
That's the only way I say it's better. And I forgot what we were talking. Oh, we're talking about Biz Markie.
Yeah,
him being part of that movement where nobody sounded like anybody else. You had your New York rap, you had your East Coast rap. It was political. It had content. Yeah, there was some goofy Will Smith, corny sounding hit, Young MC. Tone Low. There was some throwaway rappers, Vanilla Ice.
I think it's funny that you mentioned Young MC because you and I both saw Young MC perform at Game 2 of the NBA Finals.
You know what I'm saying? And young kids there like, who the hell is that?
Hey, yo, and Young MC was not young nor fit. I will say that.
Well, yeah, there was some corny crossover hip hop too, but there were some substantive performers and artists who had more of a message. And I know that things change, and I don't want to be the stick in the mud, but I think the thing with Biz Markie passing for me was like, wow, that was part of my childhood. And I'm thankful that we had artists that contributed. I'm always going to be sentimental, and I think that's the right word to use. I'm always going to be sentimental towards that era because we learned the words, we bought the cassettes, we had the boom box, we break danced on cardboard. That's never going to go away for me. And I don't get into the which era was better stuff because it's all perspective.
Jabari?
I'm not sure what else I can add, honestly, but I'll say this. I look at hip hop the same way I look at, like the NBA. It has evolved over the years. While, yes, I may not be in love with everything about today's current NBA, and there are aspects of it that I do not like, I would say the NBA can, as a game has continued to evolve. I may not love everything that I hear on radio right now, and I'm not even going to be the old guy. I don't have a problem with someone saying, Perks or whatever, because if that's your thing, if that's what you are into, whatever. If you got a dope beat behind it, I'm not too proud to bob my head. I'm just going to be honest about it.
Facts.
But I will say this. And it is selfishly, to your point, as a man in his 40s, when I saw that, I thought, okay, for one, Biz was one of my dudes when I was younger. Like I came up on that. Nobody beats the Biz, and I appreciated him for what he was at that time. But it is a reminder of our own mortality, because again, to Justin's point, the man was only 57 years old. So all I can say is I guess bringing it all together is. All I can say is I really do hope that his family and his people are okay. I hope that he was in it. I hope he was in a decent enough position that everybody's going to be okay. But ultimately, I can only offer my condolences.
As a young black kid living in Prescott, Arizona, and if you've never been to Prescott, there ain't no black people up there. There just ain't a lot of black people out there. I lived in Cordes Junction, and my mom drove me to Prescott Valley one time to a Walmart, and this is when Walmart was just now becoming a thing. And I bought my first single, and my first single was Biz Markie. And I just remember feeling like I had some type of connection with other people that resembled me at the time, despite the fact that nobody around me resembled me at the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that's what music can do. It can transform you, or can transport you from where you're at to another place because of what the music can do for you and to you. So Biz Markie was a large part of that. Go ahead.
And so, Dave Chappelle said it best. He said, whatever music you first get some ass to, that's the music you love for the rest of your life. That's your era. That's your genre. You will defend it to the end. So, Justin, when you get some ass one day, whatever's playing at that time, that's going to be your jam for life. So, just remember, when you first crack something, that's whatever's playing in the background. That's who you're going to rock with.
So, you saying that?
Jodeci. Mine was Jodeci. You know what I'm saying? Justin, I don't know what yours would be.
Mine was You Got It Bad by Usher.
Oh my God.
Corey, I don't know what this says about me, because that time of my life was like DMX, and we was going.
You was going to give it to her, huh?
We was riding new DMX.
Man, you on
Snap your fingers.
Yeah.
The crunk era.
Man.
It was a crunk era. It absolutely. That came right afterwards. Yeah.
Whew. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys and your insight, the levity on this situation, and rest in peace, Biz Markie. That's another episode of the Total BS podcast. We appreciate everybody joining. Jabari, I was mistaken. You are not on the Dunks and Discourse podcast anymore. Is that correct? That's done with. You have a new venture, a couple new ventures actually. Speaking to you before the show. Tell people where they can find you, what's going on, what's new with you.
I definitely appreciate it. And again, I meant what I said. It's always dope to be on with y'all three kings. And if you do that, hey, trademark. Okay. 19 Media Group. It's a venture that I've started with with a few other really good folks. Of course, Warren Shaw and Cal Lee have been kind enough to welcome me to the Baseline NBA podcast. So I'm definitely looking forward to more episodes. Doing more episodes with them. We kind of have a Three Kings vibe going as well. I'm just going to use that for everything, to be honest with you.
There you go.
And in another show, like you said, I'm doing a bunch of shows right now, but Never Meet Your Heroes with Dr. Tanisha Singleton. Basically, we are trying to ruin your childhood, because my childhood was ruined by all of my heroes being a-holes, excuse me. So easiest place to find me is on Twitter, at Jabari Davis NBA.
All right, there we go. You can follow Corey Williams on Twitter at College Corey. You can follow Justin Spears at Justin E Sports, and you can follow myself, Saul_Bookman. The underscore's there because I was step backing on my kids last night on that court, and I was destroying them. Other than that, that's another episode of the Total BS podcast. You can find us next week, same time, same channel. We appreciate you all coming. Corey, you got something or no?
I was wondering, we gonna talk Richard Sherman next week, or what we gonna,
Oh, yeah, we might have to get into that. Let's let that play itself out before we start going into that mode. Okay.
Oh, you want to hear all the facts?
Yeah, facts. That's how I do. All right, we'll see you all next time. Appreciate it.
Yo, your fans just might turn into our fans. Be cool, it's just a part of this program. Spit your best 16 if you must. You not whack, you just sound whack rapping after us.